Seth Meyers. This is Late Night. We hope you're doing well. And now, if you don't mind, we're going to get to the news. A video has gained attention online that appears to show President Trump sleeping during Game 3 of the NBA Finals at Madison Square Garden with the Knicks up 2-0. Maybe the loudest thing I can imagine sleeping through. His white noise machine at home must be set to explosion at the fireworks factory. President Trump today signed a $70 billion immigration enforcement funding bill into law. There's now so much money devoted to keeping foreigners out of the country, the U.S. might just win the World Cup. When asked today, why not? Why not us? When asked today about the Labor Department's new inflation numbers, President Trump said, quote, "I love it. I love the inflation. Are we sure this guy is a master politician playing four-dimensional chess? Because I'm getting the vibe of a guy who's hopelessly lost in a McDonald's placemat maze." During an Oval Office event today, President Trump said the construction was completed on the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool and added that it is, quote, "twice the height of the Empire State Building." What? No, it's a pool. It's like -3 feet high. How do you survive in the construction business if you don't know the difference between height and length? I guess we should be glad we only have to walk by Trump Tower instead of walking over it. In a post yesterday on X, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick praised the renovated Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool and added, quote, "Thank you, President Trump, for restoring our city's national treasure." I don't know. It's kind of hard to say he's restoring D.C. when there's currently a Monster Energy drink logo on the White House lawn. I mean, also, if they're going to do something this gross, can they at least send him a case? That's a guy who did not have his Monster. According to a new report from the New York Times, Vice President J.D. Vance argued for releasing all the Epstein files. To be fair, he just wanted to release something that people actually want to read. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates testified today before the House Oversight Committee about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, along with the help of his lawyer. One day, Clippy jokes are gonna stop working, but not today, Biz. Not today. Researchers published a study this week that attributes falling U.S. fertility rates on the invention of the iPhone, I guess because it made it easier to look up the cost of childcare. The NYPD on Monday arrested 21 people following the Knicks' loss in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Remember, if you want to get away with assault, it's got to be during the game. Authorities in Australia recently arrested a man and seized more than 100,000 live cockroaches that he was allegedly breeding illegally. He was breeding them? I feel like you can get the same results by leaving a pizza on the counter. And finally, an Air Canada pilot was arrested this week after an investigation uncovered that he has been flying for at least 17 years without a proper license. If convicted, he could face up to 5 years at Frontier. And that was a monologue, everybody! We got a great show for you tonight. You know her from Oppenheimer, the Devil Wears Prada films, and A Quiet Place franchise. She's starring in the incredible new film from Steven Spielberg, Disclosure Day, which is in theaters everywhere on Friday, June 12th. Emily Blunt is here tonight. Our friend Emily is back. And they are two award-winning writers, best-selling authors from their respective worlds of TV and sports writing. Their fantastic new book, Big Fan, Two Friends, 82,490 miles in the wild, wonderful sports we love, is available now. Mike Shore and Joe Posnanski are joining us. But before we get to all that, Donald Trump insisted that the loud boos he heard at Game 3 of the NBA Finals were actually cheers, while also doubling down on his lie that the elections in California were rigged. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Donald Trump lives in his own world. We all know this. The world he lives in is a world where he looks like this, but the world the rest of us live in is a world where he looks like this. Now, in fairness to Trump, it would be hard to make a statue that looks like that. The only way to make gold take this shape is by leaving it in a hot car. Like a very hot car. In Trump's alternate reality, he's a world historical genius and everyone else is dumb. Even though right after he calls someone dumb, he usually immediately follows it up by doing or saying something dumb. Like today, when he was asked about having to work with Democrats in Congress, he called them dumb, was told he needed their votes, and then immediately folded.
What do you think the Democrats saying they'll hold up the...
I don't care what they say. Democrats. They're not Democrats. They're Democrats. They're dumb people, yeah.
But you need their votes.
Then I guess something's going to happen.
I don't care about the Democrats, they're dumb, but you need their votes. Duh. Trump creates and inhabits his own reality with its own rules. He even has his own math. In our world, you can only reduce the price of something by 100% max. Once you reduce it 100%, it's free. But in Trump's world, numbers work very differently.
I want to get the drug prices down by 1,000%, 1,200%, 500, 600, 800, even 1,200%. By 1,200, 1,300, and even 1,400%, and 500. 1,000%, 600%, 500%, 1,500%, by 1,000%. By 900, 600, 500, 1,200, 100, 200, 300, 500, 700, 400%, 200%, 600%, 100%, 200%, 300, 400, 500%, 1,000%, 1,200%. You could say 5, 6, 7, 800%, 400, 500, 600, 700%, 400, 500, and even 600%. You could even say 400, 500, 600, or 700%, depending on the way you ask the question. By 500, 600%, or 80%, or 75%. Anyway, it's all about the phrasing of the question.
No! It's not. Math is math. There's no math problem where the answer is 500 or 600 or 80 or 75. I don't remember that from my AP algebra days. 2 trains or 3 trains or 4 are traveling toward one another on the same track or different tracks, whatever. The first train leaves at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. traveling at 60 or 80 or 200 miles per hour, something like that. The second train is 135 miles away or 900 miles or 6 million or 2 feet and leaves whenever the it wants, plus the driver's 80, and he forgets where he's supposed to go even though his cognitive test says he's a genius. What time will the collision occur? Please make your answer as vague as humanly possible. Numbers are not subjective. You do not get to have your own math, but in Trump's mind, math can be whatever he wants, and he's surrounded by bootlicking sycophants who reinforce his delusions.
President Trump has a different way of calculating. If there's 2 ways of calculating percentage. If you have a $600 truck and you reduce it to 10, that's a 600% reduction.
Oh my God, it's not. I can't believe I have to explain math to you. I mean, I kind of believe it. You try to eat roadkill. But here's the thing. I can't believe I have to explain math to you. I'm not a math teacher, dude, despite the fact that, yes, I dress like one. Not a full-time math teacher, mind you. More like a substitute, a fun substitute who's got other stuff going on, probably a band. We do a few covers, but mostly original stuff. And when I'm leaving your school, baby, it's not for long, you know. 3 days tops, and then I'm off to the next town to teach kids. Not just about math, but life. All through the power of my music. Here's the thing. If you have a $600 drug and you reduce it to $10, that's a reduction of $590, which is a reduction of 98%. Here, let me show you. 590 divided by 600 equals 98.33. I did this myself. I was up all night scouring advanced algebra textbooks, conducting a series of intricate mathematical proofs. Oh, wait, I forgot. I used the calculator on my phone. And let me just say that if you had decreased the price of drugs 98%, that would be awesome. But of course, you haven't done that either. He's out here making up math about stuff that is also made up. And of course, I'm falling into the trap of focusing on the math instead of the lie. It's like if he held up a chart saying unicorn horns were 40% longer this year, and I said, that looks like 25% longer tops. Anyway, the point is Trump inhabits his own reality with its own rules, which is why I wasn't even remotely surprised to hear him say that actually the boos he received at Madison Square Garden on Monday night were really cheers.
It wasn't much of a warm welcome for the president at Game 3 of the NBA Finals last night. The crowd loudly booed when Trump was shown on the Jumbotron at Madison Square Garden in New York City.
What
did you think of the reception you got from the Knicks fans tonight?
I thought great. It was, I think, mostly cheers.
Oh, dude. You're not just wrong, you're wrong by 600%. Those were not mostly cheers. That was very clear and distinct booing, unless the crowd saw Spike Lee and they were saying, do the right thing. Not a great time in this nation when someone says, hey, we should cut to the president during the national anthem, right? And the response is, I wouldn't. The only way he could think those were mostly cheers was if his staff slipped a pair of noise-canceling headphones onto his head and played cheering sounds. I mean, I guess to make it less noticeable, they would make them like the color of his hair or just like maybe just big old ears. Point is, Trump inhabits his own reality where math is whatever he wants it to be, and Knicks fans love him. And once again, his bootlicking sycophants got to work.
I think the president had about half the stadium in New York City, which is pretty amazing. There were people cheering, and I'll challenge anybody on that. I was sitting right there.
Oh man, I wish you'd brought a microphone because we couldn't hear that. And even if you did hear a few cheers, that doesn't change what the rest of us heard from the entire stadium. But if you thought Kilmeade's attempt to soothe Trump's ego couldn't get any more delusional, brace yourself.
Can I just say that I was lucky enough to go to the game last night, and it was loud. It was reminding me more of Tyson. When Tyson stepped into to an arena, the place would erupt. I wouldn't know if it was cheers or it was just like action. Wow. So the president did get a good response.
It's so funny to say that you couldn't tell if it was cheers or boos. It was just action. It's like if my agent called me and said, good news, you're on the front page. You're getting a lot of action. Here's the headline. Local man pants on F-train after sitting on his own balls. But there's one more thing I have to address.
He had a great time and loved every minute of it. This is a president that is a true Knicks fan. This is a guy, fundamentally, he just loves big games.
Yeah, he had a great time. He loves the Knicks. He loves big games. You could tell he was living and dying with every play. In fact, he was so nervous he couldn't even open his eyes. And I know what you're thinking. That guy's definitely asleep. If he was any more asleep, they would have made him a ref. Seriously, dude. You shut down Midtown Manhattan and made everyone go through 2 hours of TSA-style security just so you could take a nap at Game 3 of the NBA Finals? When I saw this clip, I made the same face Mike Bloomberg made when Jose Alvarado crashed into him. And it's not like Trump wasn't caffeinated. A White House reporter wrote that Trump was seen taking sips from what appeared to be a Diet Coke bottle. The NBA has an exclusive contract with Pepsi, so someone had to bring it in for him because you can't get Coke at MSG. So everyone gets inconvenienced because you decide to go to the game and you won't even drink your second choice soda? Next time this guy says Iran is being unreasonable in negotiations, remember, he basically said, well, if they don't have Diet Coke, I'm not going to go. So Trump invented an alternate reality where he got cheered at the Knicks game that he was definitely awake at, just like he's inventing an alternate reality where Republicans are only losing in California because the election is rigged.
The election was rigged. It was a dirty election.
Mr.
And it's
President,
happening again right now in California.
You've never presented evidence
It's happening
that the
right
2020
now in
election
California.
was rigged.
Right now, look at what's
Where's
happening in
the evidence
California.
to that?
The election was totally rigged. It was a rigged election, just like they're rigging the election right now, it looks like in California. Can you imagine? It's 4 days, and they still aren't even close to telling you who won. You know why? Because they're rigging the election, that's why. You see it happening in California. Those numbers are coming down rapidly. They found a lot of mail-in ballots last night, shockingly. So we don't want that.
Yeah, they found the mail-in ballots in the mailbox. You know, where people sent them, and now they're going to count them. California relies disproportionately on mail ballots for many reasons. One, they want to make it easy for people to vote. And two, people don't want to drive to their polling place because gas is so expensive. If you want people to vote in person, then maybe you should start making it cheaper to fill a tank of gas than it is to get to the NBA Finals. And yes, Spencer Pratt received a ton of pre-election attention due to being a disgraced reality star, but he was still a Republican in a very Democratic city. I mean, California, the state, is less liberal than LA, and therefore it makes sense that Steve Hilton, a Republican, did make the final two in the race for governor. If anything is strange about Steve Hilton, it's that he was born in England and has a British accent. But then I remembered when it comes to governors, this has happened before in California. But again, Just like in the case of Trump's fake math or his fake cheers, Trump's lickspittles are jumping in to affirm his delusions about voting.
The way that they're coming in just so happens to work out such that the Republican is getting kicked out of the final two, so it's a Democrat versus Democrat runoff. That seems pretty shady to me.
You had wide changes after election night in the results of an election, and for days and weeks later, they just keep finding ballots until the election results change. Look, whether you can prove fraud or not, it does undermine voter integrity in the vote.
No, it doesn't. You're the ones undermining voter integrity. You guys are the ones who make up. Then when people believe you, you say it's a problem that people believe that we made up. You have an open floor to prove that there's fraud. Give us a single piece of evidence, anything. Instead, you keep saying obvious BS like this.
What evidence is there to prove that there was rain?
Some of these efforts are so diabolical and so far upstream it is impossible to prove.
Let me tell you, it's 4 days, and they aren't even close to coming up with it.
That's how they count
You know
the
why
votes
they're
in
doing that?
California.
Because they're cheating on the election.
Do you have evidence to support
All I
that?
have to do is look. All I have to do is look.
Well, the problem is we don't trust the way you look based on the way you listen.
It was, I think, mostly cheers.
Also, Mike Johnson, what the are you talking about? You know there's a plot to rig the election, but that plot is so diabolical and so upstream that you can't prove the plot you're certain exists? What does that even mean? You sound like a Knicks fan who thinks there's a conspiracy to give Wemby the trophy. This goes all the way to the top, man. It's so diabolical. It's so upstream. NBA gave him a super serum that makes him so tall. That's why he keeps growing by
500, 600, 700%.
And it's not just California. Even in Texas, Republicans are spreading wild conspiracy theories about James Tallarico, the Democratic candidate for Senate. They've called him a woke, transgender vegan, none of which is true. Now they're saying he's not manly enough for Texas.
I gotta say, if you were making a list of 1,000 adjectives to describe this guy, masculine would not be one of them. I mean, this guy, if a stiff breeze came by, it would blow him over like a feather.
A stiff breeze would blow him over like a feather, whereas when I feel a stiff breeze, I know that can be the first sign of an impending storm, which means I'm off to Cancun. And I'm sorry, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, are you under the impression that you're masculine just because you grew 2/3 of a beard? This is why prices are high, or the war with Iran is still happening. Trump gets stuck in his own delusions, and everyone around him says he's right, whether it's math or voting or getting booed at the NBA Finals. Trump's lies keep going up.
By 1,200, 1,300, and even 1,400%.
This has been A Closer Look.